Welcome, I'll be reviewing Star Trek Discovery Season 4, Episode 10. I like that they started right out with, what if the universal translator doesn't work? And the fact that they brought in an actual linguist makes so much sense. Hoshi, for example, was so important during those early days of Trek when the universal translator wasn't always working. So I feel like we're kind of going back to Enterprise level here. It's logical that the DMA was more powerful this time because if you have a piece of equipment and it breaks, you troubleshoot what went wrong and you make sure that the next version won't have that happen. It's really bad for us though. It was quite the surprise when the Federation president decided to join the mission, but I appreciated that she took the time to make a clear chain of command before she left. I admire that level of efficiency where she made sure, for example, her powers were transferred to the vice president before she left. It was either a really bold, well thought out move, or she was just being really stubborn and wanted to go along. I'm not sure which. It seems like Tarka can talk his way out of anything. He's like the embodiment of that meme from The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. He's out of line, but he's right. He started making so many valid points that even though he is a vile person, he started getting me on his side. And I think that's what happened with Book as well, so I can't really blame him. Saru finally telling Tarina that he was interested in her was just so sweet. And he carefully phrased it with things like, I enjoy working with you. Maybe it could be something more, rather than an emotional declaration, which would be off-putting to a Vulcan. Of course, it got interrupted. So frustrating as a viewer. But she probably needed time to think on it anyway. It was unsurprising when she suddenly popped up later as a last-minute delegate. And when later she said Saru was a comforting presence, I feel like that's a step in the right direction. I was so happy for the space dad moment in the corridor, though. It's one of the best things about Discovery. And then later on, when Hugh was going on about how they met, those blue eyes. I could just have a show with only those two. Nothing else, just following them around. I miss Gray a lot, so when Adira finally started talking about how much they missed him too, that was really moving. And then the line, I will always reach for you if it seems like you're hurting. My heart cannot take this, Space Dads. Just stop being so amazing. As the first contact mission got going and Michael did her opening speech, did anyone else go, let's fly, along with her? It was intriguing getting to see the old Emerald Chain work camp. Finally getting some Tarka backstory as well. He is a fascinating villain. One of the better ones on New Trek. And then hearing how he was forced to work alone as a scientist for almost 5 years, it made me start to feel for him. This scene where he talked about how he had never really had a real friend to Aros was beautiful. But to then later sell out Argos like that, wow. He did try to do the right thing in the end, and Aros seemed to see that, but I don't know. I would still have been pretty upset. I'd like to think that the massive power surge meant his friend successfully got away. The galactic barrier was beautiful, like a rip in space. It reminded me a lot of Doctor Who. And did they just ride an unstable space bubble? That was crazy. Here I paused simply to admire a floating keyboard. Yeah, I'm a nerd. It's just so cool looking and practical. The new phone that I got is much narrower than my old one, so I've been struggling with typing quickly. Can you imagine if you could just go, whew, and there's a nice fly-out keyboard to type on? I just love the tech on Discovery. The reveal that Navarre and Earth are the next targets in only a few days, that was huge. Not unexpected from a writer's perspective, of course, but it definitely upped the stakes. I completely agree with Michael. I think everyone deserved to know, and the president going, we shouldn't tell them, just frustrated me. I was way too excited about the random Pacific Crest Trail reference. If you had seen my reaction, I think I went like this. The reason is I do live in California, and I know people who have hiked the Pacific Crest Trail multiple times, and the pictures that they have brought back are stunning. For anyone unfamiliar with it, it's where you walk from Mexico to Canada on the west coast. There's 3 main trails, the PCT, the CDT, and the AT. So basically the Western Trail, the Central Trail, the Eastern Trail. They call it a triple crown if you've done all 3. From what I've heard, the PCT is the easiest from finding the trail perspective. The Central Trail has a lot of roads involved in it and it's really hard to find. You have to have a GPS. And then the Eastern Trail is probably the most popular and it's very crowded. However, I think he probably meant section hike because it is 2,650 miles long. It takes about half a year to walk, but a lot of people do section hiking where you basically do part of it and then go back to civilization. If you're not able to take off like 6 months from work, sometimes people do walk the PCT one tiny bit at a time. So they'll take a week off, hike it, go back to work. It's very difficult, but it's possible. And I'm guessing that's what he was referring to. And you're probably wondering, why are you going on so long about a trail? It's just gorgeous. If you have not looked at videos or pictures from the Pacific Crest Trail, check it out. It's beautiful. Yes, I just paused it to admire Book's ship again. It's so pretty. I keep going back and forth on whether or not I like the president. She keeps irritating me, but at the same time, once in a while, she pulls off scenes like the one at the end, and you can tell how she ended up in charge. At least she and Michael have a better relationship after this, so they can put up a unified front, which I think will be very helpful going forward. I still don't know who I'm rooting for though. Michael and her diplomatic team, or Book and Tarka on their rogue semi-D&D mission to go destroy the alien power source, or in Tarka's case, use it. I don't know. Let me know what you think. Live long and prosper.